Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, and we are here at the final video in the V Cinema Essentials Collection, Bullets and Betrayal from Arrow Video. It's been a really awesome journey diving into all 9 of these films, all the way from Crime Hunter to this film now. Hope everyone's managed to pick up the box set edition. If you're not too sure about it, check it out on the Arrow Video player. It is available all on all those films in HD. Good way of checking out those films prior and just see if you want to maybe dive into that box set, maybe later on the sale if you're not too sure at the moment. I'm really hoping this box set is done quite well, because there is a lot of these cinema movies out there, doing a bit more research into them, and I really hope there's a second volume maybe down the line. But last diving into these test discs, watching the films, checking out the extras, and exploring a whole new side of Japanese cinema that I never knew existed. And I'm really grateful and really happy. And I'm really looking forward to checking out a lot more directors and some actors that I've come across now thanks to watching these films. And there are quite a few V Cinema films that are available, part of the separate edition Arrow box sets and on the Arrow Video player. And so as always, guys, I'll be talking about my first impressions of the film itself, and then we're talking about the special features alongside it. So without further ado, let's dive into the film. And for the final video, we have XXX Beautiful Hunter, released in 1994, directed by Masaru Kunma, if I'm saying that correctly. A big director in the Roma porno space in terms of the director. He has done over 40 plus films. Really big director for that kind of corner of the market for Japanese cinema during that time. The extras really dives into this. I won't paraphrase what they've said, just go and watch the extra special features, but I'll talk about a little bit of that on the separate side of this review. But I really kind of dives into a lot of detail, who this director was, his influence over kind of the cinema during that time, and his influence over making something like this, where he got an opportunity to work with Toei, part of the V Cinema line, and being the fact this was 1994, which is quite nice because most of the films on this edition have been 1991. This one is based on a manga has the character name, and basically has a whole series of films from the XXX series, including another XXX, which dives into these kind of more erotic kind of thrillers, girls with guns, badassery kind of characters, which is interesting because obviously on the extra side of it, which I'll get into soon, talks about this idea of writing for women as main leading protagonist is quite different compared to a standard male protagonist, and it raises some different challenges, which I think is quite interesting, and how that's been explored and how it's been utilized between our main leading female assassin character versus the secondary male character in this film, and how that kind of role reversal that usually takes place. This film is interesting because one is its own individual disc compared to the others have, discs that, has shared kind of space with another film. So they ended this box set on XXX Beautiful Hunter, and I can see why, because this film was pretty dope and pretty badass and a lot of fun. This was just really creative, stylistic, badass scoring, almost 80s kind of riff kind of thing, and very much in that lineup around that time from like something like Black Cat, Naked Killer, Hong Kong cinema. Definitely girls with guns, erotica, sex, violence, badassery, just really creative, really fun, and just dope as fuck, and of course having some steamy S&M, light softcore porn sequences in the film, which surprisingly is quite restrained and quite reserved for the most part compared to some of the other films on this box set, which portrays kind of sex as something like, hey, if we just have 2 characters go at each other and we just have a couple of scenes that happen, it's fine. It just kind of adds that kind of raunchy stuff to it. Where something like this director, which I haven't seen any of his previous films, which I think I'm gonna have to change after watching this, if I get access to his films, that is, really knows how to shoot women. And again, diving into some of the special features there, which I don't want to give too much away, it talks about this idea of he knows how to film women, he knows how to shoot women, he knows what the audience wants, he knows what he likes, he knows how to kind of bring out the best in them in terms of the filming, which I think is very apparent and very kind of, honest within how he frames women in this film in terms of how he shoots them, versus with the action scenes versus like the more kind of softcore porn stuff, the more erotica sequences, more the smaller moments. Interesting choices, just a lot of interesting kind of lighting, scoring, editing, all combination of things to make these scenes really work. But the main thing is also getting those shots on day one. making sure they look good, making sure you're getting your best out of your actress, and of course your actors involved in it. And I think he does a really good job in this. What's funny as well, it is mentioned that the director has had 4 wives and 4 divorces, which also backs up that theory as well, very much of his kind of keen eye and his love for women. Hiroshi Takahari is the writer of this film. Now, if you recognize that name and why this film is so goddamn good, and I didn't know this until after watching the film, it is the writer of the Ring series, the Japanese Ring series, and of course the credited for the remake as well. That made one of the biggest important films for Japanese J-horror series at the time, and he's the writer for this film as well, which is no wonder why the attention to detail is so on point, and why the director and the writer really kind of collaborated really well in creating both the strong aspects of good writing style and directing style. So yeah, very interesting fact if you didn't know that. Hino Kuno is our main leading actress in this film, which is during the time of basically making this, she was a model, or was a model at the time, and basically this was a good entry point into doing something like this, like Girls with Guns, more erotica type of sequences with her being completely nude, doing S&M sequences and doing sex scenes, simulated sex scenes, and obviously she did a few movies in this space, similar kind of nature, but would eventually kind of fall out of it and do more serious-based kind of drama, more Japanese kind of more classier kind of drama-based kind of film. She does a really good job. She is a really captivating, interesting character. Obviously, she's helped by the supporting actors involved in it, a supporting male co-star in the film, which really kind of amplifies her performance, being the fact that we are following her. This is her story. This is her journey, going from her basically a kid all the way to being a female assassin. And this is very much in the line of something like a Black Cat or a Naked Killer type situation. And she does a really good job. She handles all the scenes very well. I think she plays vulnerable and innocent, despite being a very kind of capable, Girls with Guns badass character, which is awesome. She has the gun, she has, the fiery nature to kind of, massacre loads of people. She's definitely ruthless at the times. I think is quite cool, but she's got that kind of baby face, kind of innocent kind of look, but you believe the fact that she could potentially kill everyone in the room. It's kind of like that interesting kind of, she's a beautiful hunter, literally. She's definitely got the beauty, she's definitely got the badassery, and she's got the vulnerable kind of drop guard kind of performance base, which I think definitely is important to the film. And I think her journey through this hour-and-a-half movie, I think was really fun, really captivating. I think the stylistic choices from the director really amplify this film from being a more of a traditional, typical, maybe V Cinema lineup, assembly lineup, and make it something stand out of the crowd. There's a reason why this film is separate compared to any other film on this edition, and probably could sell for an individual release. This was a really fun movie, and I was pleasantly surprised with the choices. Definitely self-aware, definitely very restrained, being the fact that most of these films, if not all of them, definitely have some kind of either one, excess of violence or explicit nudity and sex scenes. This film has S&S sequences, simulated sex, and has, some kind of slight raunchier kind of softcore porn sequences. And being the fact you've got a legendary seasonal kind of director that's done this for many, many years, during the 70s all the way to the 90s now, of course, he knows how to tease you. He knows how to get you in the right mind space. And kind of at the start of the film, very robotic, which I think is a very deliberate choice, very much like a condition, very much a programming of, she's not actually a robot, but she definitely is someone who's been conditioned, groomed, and kind of basically sent out there to do very specific work. And she doesn't have a TV, she's never experienced any kind of form of relationship or sex, and she's basically just known to be loyal to her father, to basically wait to kind of her next assignment and basically be the perfect weapon, essentially. Pacing for the film, I think, is absolutely fantastic. I think it's really kind of spot on, really engaging, really fun, in terms of its comedy, in terms of its stimulated sequences, in terms of its action, its stylistic choices, how he wants to portray the story, how he wants to kind of get you through A, B, and C. All great, all really fun. The story basically follows our main character, which is our kind of assassin character. She is tracking down someone who got away, essentially. Someone who is a photographer, someone who's taking some criminating imagery and basically tracks him down and basically says, I want those images, I want those negatives, and I'm going to kill you after, essentially. This becomes an interesting kind of back and forth because she's never really talked to any of her victims or anyone beforehand. She's willing to kind of kill them just straight off the bat. It leads to a very specific sequence underground where she's basically about to kill him he is begging for his life. He is basically saying, you know, please don't do this. You know, I can walk away. I can forget about you, forget about the whole situation. And basically, as he's fucking begging, rips her clothes off. You know, rips her kind of trousers or kind of a blouse, whatever you want to call it, and basically starts going down on her because she's like never experienced anything kind of like this. What's funny about that sequence, what's great about it, is that it's stylistic, has great lighting, changes music, and it kind of almost switches into like a softcore porn movie, and then it has the restraint and the cleverness to basically snap out of it. It immediately changes to a different type of music, changes the lighting, and basically this kind of fantasized kind of like, ooh, kind of imagery where she's basically, this guy is going down on her, she snaps out of it, and it kind of breaks the kind of the fantasy, the illusion, which I thought was very clever, very fun, and kind of establishes how clever this director is, how well he knows this genre and how well he knows this space, and how to tease you as an audience member as well. Which I think is quite cool. And from that point onwards, I think all the steamier stuff, all the stuff that we kind of know isn't just kind of, you know, obvious or kind of just kind of thrown off the screen kind of thing, which I had some issues with the kind of the Hitman, Blood Smells Like Roses, where I thought it was an excess of that for the sake of it, where this film I think is very deliberate, very stylistic choices, and it kind of helps boost up these characters and our investment in this kind of very traditional kind of love story that kind of forms through her kind of curiosity. She goes on a date and she just kind of wants to know more. She wants TV, she wants to try meat, and she gets invested in this person and kind of falls to him essentially as the film goes along. And of course she's going against the order, going against the kind of organization, and she kind of has to stop them, and you know, there's a bit of back and forth going forward, find out some twists and turns as the film goes along. Some of it a bit obvious, but still nonetheless really creative how it's presented and how it's kind of framed and how it adds to the story. I don't know if the follow-up movies continue that same character story, or these are individual storylines with different characters, different people. So yeah, putting it simply, XXX Beautiful Hunter is really fun. It's a really great way to end the kind of this box set. It's a great little ninth entry. It has all the stuff you want to see in terms of girls with guns, beautiful women, just kind of raunchier sequences which are tastefully done, creative, fun, self-aware, great action moments as well, a good sense of pacing, really tight pacing, really great, and just a really fun film with a kick-ass scoring as well with some English tracks. XXX Beautiful Hunter, definitely want to recommend and check out on this edition. We have a brand new extra called The Sacred and the Profaned, a newly filmed interview with screenwriter Hiroshi Takahari. We have a brand new extra called They Brought Back the Sleaze, a brand new video essay on XXX Beautiful Hunter by critic and Japanese cinema expert Patrick Messier. In terms of the special features mentioned, I think was definitely quite lucrative and definitely a lot more attention in terms of the history of this film and the significance of the director. You got two extras, one's a video essay, talks about the film itself, breaking it down, and one is a bit more of a history-based kind of, you know, video conversation, talking about the director, how this film falls in line within the V-cinema kind of erotic kind of side, and both have similar types of kind of points and kind of themes they talk about in terms of how important this director was in terms of the kind of the Roma porno space, and doing that to translating it to a V-cinema lineup, more of a straight to kind of home video on demand, how this film was selling very well on the video market, and how he talks about this kind of evolving and changing kind of time where, like, you know, films back in the day in terms of Japanese cinema, you had the double feature as mentioned in previous videos, and then TV was invented and people watching films from home. So how do you people go back in the cinema? You create more raunchier content, you create more violence, you create more something you can't get on the TV. And then Toei's kind of attention goes into more the cinema market, where you're getting more erotic kind of thrillers, with something like Basic Instinct being quite popular during the 90s, and you get more of these types of films which are kind of dominating that kind of space. And hey, look, you know, you can rent this film, this naughty film essentially, and then times change again when people are starting to buy these movies, starting to own these films, and then that kind of lucrative kind of market starts to dry up, and then obviously it has to change and alter as the decades go along. Both extras I thought was really great, kind of diving into the kind of the history of Japanese cinema, the director's kind of history, and also talking about the film itself and the legacy of what this film has to do in terms of the future sequels and how its placement in the V-cinema and Japanese kind of lineup. So there you go, guys. Have been my thoughts and opinions on the V-cinema Essentials Collection box set. All 9 films have been reviewed now. Hope you enjoy watching these videos. I look forward to diving more into more V-cinema and more Japanese films for you guys soon. What are your thoughts and opinions? Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.